It's a common secret and social anxiety that you should always keep your road to success walled off, like let people see the outcome of what you've done. Don't tell people your plans and so forth. But what I've discovered was even pixels of the blueprint you're designing or want to design, they bring back reactions, be they good, be they bad, but they are reactions. But it's not necessarily, stating it all. And I've seen a lot of tech companies have started to approach this, not only with beta products, but by leaking some of their some of the latest things that they are working on. The reactions make them, go back to the drawing board and do things over again. But these reactions have to sort of be global. I think a world standard is the best standard, and being divided into north, east, west, you know, that isn't a standard. That's a limitation, and we often get caught up in these limitations, because sometimes people feel like and when they are not where they wanted to be. This can cause depression, low self-esteem, and sort of that question of how do I face the world after all of this. And I don't I don't condone persecuting people over things that they don't or didn't fully understand. There are people who know exactly what they're doing, what the impact will do, and they do it anyway out of spite. And and then there's the other group. So trade, as we know it today, the Brexit thing shocked people. They were like, people are going out of Britain. This will cause this and this, and there were a bunch of analysts doing a lot of things. But there is no such thing as Brexit. Uh, there's no country that's an island. Um, Eventually, policies will change or they will be amended, reformed, especially with the pressure that's on now. And this pressure comes with the full force of sustainable living. Sustainable living in the sense that if one country doesn't particularly share as much to the other country, they might put themselves at a disadvantage. I'm not saying overshare or that classified information will just be released. No. What I'm saying is trade. For example, Namibia. Namibia went, and the president Dr. Hage Geingob, went and he pitched Namibia to businessmen in America. Now, I know for a fact that there are some businessmen who are a bit opportunistic. They'll be like, these, they don't really know how this stuff works, right? So let's go give them a deal and then walk away with a bunch of stuff. But the world has become so small that that sense of intimidation isn't there anymore. This is a big country, this is a small country. It isn't there anymore, and there is proof. South Africa has a bigger population. They have more minerals, natural resources. Um, Toyota even has a plant where they make Toyota bakkies in South Africa, and a lot of stuff is made in South Africa. They've made their own app, WeChat, sort of like a competitor to WhatsApp. That's South African made. There's the Linux guy who was, if not the first human, then the first South African to go up to space. When he sold his company, that's what he used this money for, to go up to space. And with all of those private successes, they are failing miserably in the public department. And in doing so, like I said with the Rand FoodSec, which most people thought meant South Africa FoodSec. No, that wasn't the case. The thing is, the Namibian dollar is so linked to the South African rand that you can come and buy anything you want in in Namibia with your rand. You don't have to come and convert it. Right? I guess that's part of some of the trade agreements. But where it wanes and it sort of deteriorates is when you can't use your Namibian dollars to go and pay for stuff in South Africa unless it's converted to the rand. These are the remnants of the apartheid regime era. Those are the remnants of it. And they seclude themselves to the point where I noticed that the history is even not told right. South Africa spent more money fighting against the Angolan and the Namibian rebels than it did on the ANC. It's a fact. Check it up. Do your math. Alright? Because they had to be superior without turning to nuclear weapons, which are arsenals that they had at the time. I think they were they took away their nuclear capability, and then the former Mandela was inaugurated as president. Now, this is just my theory. He said if there's a quote for him, if the old, no, if we become like the old oppressors, then we have to be thrown off now, like we did with the former oppressor. And that's the sort of the mindset that South Africans have at the moment, because they don't really feel things have changed, and it's a financial dilemma as opposed to being just a social dilemma. And it's a fact, they have all the resources, they have all of that stuff, but nothing is for free. And work nowadays cannot be defined as doing work in just one way, by traveling long distances to meet people in person and talk to them and make deals and so forth. It's a bit more networked now, right? So it's even brought up things like, why don't presidents just Skype each other? Why do they have to waste money to go meet? I guess it's a viable idea, but it leads to a lot of security risks. The safety of WhatsApp isn't really that guaranteed, so presidents can be having confidential classified conversations on Skype, something that journalists can infiltrate. And as we've seen, the WikiLeaks cookie monster just wants to expose things for shock value and relevance. I don't have a problem with WikiLeaks or how they work, but I still remain of the opinion that it's better to be secure, feel secure, than supposedly keep your entire privacy, right? Because I mean, how do you know these people? There's a cult there. How do you know that person is, wants to kill people? How do you know? It's something that's needed, and it's governance. It's governance. If say Twitter is doing it, then it becomes a real violation. But if it's the government doing it, then it's a form of security procedure, because we all know about moles. The world learned a lot after World War II. So back to South Africa and the whole Rand Futek thing. Uh, I told you how we're so tied, and supposedly it's because South Africa is our biggest trading partner, and so is Angola somehow. I don't know how, but that's not entirely true. What is true is we don't know how to break away from South African trade because we fear the fall of the Namibian dollars to nothing. So we seem like we're piggybacking on South Africa, which is a bad thing. Makes us look like babies. And those are the jokes. Rand Futek, that's what it meant. It just meant self-sustainability. And self-sustainability, people don't are not really accustomed to that. That's why we have so-called hard-working people who do the hard labor, and just the people who go by. And that's why today work isn't necessarily well defined. You could say I'm working, but some people will be like, on what? What are you doing? You're doing nothing. And so forth. And to change that mindset, to connect more people, and it has started to roll that way, and to change more people, their views on life, and so forth. And it's not a short-term thing. It's a long, progressive, set of pixels, and it has to be community based, because people aren't always right, but sometimes they sometimes they are not wrong, and that has to be respected. um, Things like dogma have to be seen outside of a courtroom, not just in the courtroom after the effect and the damage that dogma has done to an individual. So all of these things are dots, and how they come together. For example, with me, I stated this a really long time ago. It was about having fair trade and a bigger trading market that pulls in investors, but investors aren't the most important thing. It's the people that work for them. So if the people that work for them are deployed, they come and they give their expertise, and it's done. That fair exchange cannot be done within the boundaries of SADC at the moment. It's a mess, right? It's a mess, and no one will be sort of understanding of this fact of how free-flowing currency can sort of tilt the balance, and how free fair trade can tilt the balance. And it's all because of a lack of forward thinking. Being given a bunch of papers and a date, it's 2030 or it's what, that isn't much. It doesn't do much. What does do a lot are the happenings, and we are always observing the happenings, and so far not much is happening, right? So that's basically what I meant up with the Land Food Check, since it offended some people. And I still strongly believe that internal strength will lead to better trade. And internal trade, those are strong institutions. And I would put this akin to my first major surgery, this thing where they remove the tumor. I walked in there, walking normal. After the surgery, I didn't expect my body to be in that condition where I couldn't pick up a spoon to feed myself. And people kept telling me about, this there will be 6 months and so forth. And I had to keep a positive mind as opposed to stressing about it. And since I meditate, I could sort of draw it all away. But still, there were times when I got lazy and I didn't want to do the practices and stuff. But it just showed me something that I took for granted. I've always been about going at it full force, but I learned how to be patient with my body itself, because I'm not patient with my body really. My mind is always buzzing. So that taught me that, and it showed me something that I didn't know. For example, though most people don't recover this quick, I I thought it was normal. But that's it's the same with things like government and people. Recovery shouldn't be seen as a impossible task at the get-go and something to strive towards. It should be seen with a mind's eye of, this much progress is made, what value can be added. It's all about add value. I've said it a million times. And some countries just seem to suck at that, and they make us look bad. This little unknown country with only like 2.5 million people or so forth, who cares? It's an insult. If we were irrelevant, then why are we relevant when we are needed? Right? So I don't buy it. I think it's just a case of competition, which country will do better and so forth. Our country is better at this, and it's silly, it's childish, but that's kind of how it's going behind the scenes. and you have to be able to read through some of the sleight of hand stuff, and look at what's really happening. And that's basically what's really happening. There is a smaller incentive on helping people rather than achieving goals. Goals are important, but it takes people to achieve these goals. um, which is why I get angry with this whole petty thing, um, of blaming one person like I wasn't there. Um, you know, yeah, when it comes to that, my heart just says, screw you, it's not your decision. Are you contributing somehow, some way? No.